believe you, I want them to hear this. For this, most of this year, we don't want you doing a lot of long division.
Aww.
Well, stop. We want you to know your benchmark fractions. So it's not that you're never going to do long division, but if you know your benchmark fractions, you can make your long division quicker. Okay? Are you listening? What's benchmark fractions? That's what we're going to talk about. Okay. Benchmark fractions.
Could this be in our combo?
I think you could just listen because you have that yellow sheet there. So benchmark fractions are fractions that have denominators that are common, like halves, fourths, thirds. I don't think you need to. Fifths.
Is there anything with one in it?
No, sixths and tenths for starters. And then with those, Ella, all the things that have those denominators. So 3/4, that's a 3. 2/3, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5. The sixth, not going to happen today. But eighths are. So that's later. So anything with a 10, so 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, blah, 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 blah. And anything with an eighth, 2/8, 3/8, blah, 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 right? So your benchmark fractions are things with denominators that have 2, 3, 4, 5, and 8. And what I mean by that is if you can learn those decimals quickly, then you never need to do long decimal division, or you rarely will do long decimal division all the way out, because a lot of the numbers we're going to work with right now this year are going to be benchmark fraction numbers, and if they're not, then we will handle that on a case-by-case situation. Okay? So that's the idea. So watch my thinking here. I've got this sheet, and you have it on the back of your yellow paper, and this is called a double number line, which means on the top you're going to put decimal answers, and on the bottom you're going to put fraction answers. Okay? And then, so for example, on fractions you're counting the jumps here, right? So there's 4 jumps. So your denominator is fourths, right? So this is a fourth. This is 2/4, but we would also call it a half.
Wait, did you have to put a half?
And this is 3/4, and you can put 2/4 right there, Chase. If that's what you're thinking. Both is great. Okay? So, right. So if you need to know, the goal is that you learn the decimals for these. So if you think of this one as money, for example, $1, half of $1 is what? So we would write that like 0.5, or you could write it as 0.50. They're both correct. You could write it as 0.5000, but we're not going to. Okay, so the reason I like that is then I can divide just 50. What's 50 divided in half? 25. And you can see between here and here, the halfway point is there, right? So this is going to be 25, and this is tenths hundredths, so we say that's 25 hundredths. Do you remember that from elementary school?
Yep. Yes.
Reading the word. So now basically it's like counting by quarters. So this is 25 hundredths, 50 hundredths, 75 hundredths, and I write that?
100, 100.
No, and then one whole. Well, that's true. 100 100ths is a whole. Okay, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. You understand that?
So is there anything that goes in?
So the way we're going to do this is think that way, and then I'll help you with some of them, okay? Some of them we do have to add some little division to the side. Yeah, thirds we'll talk about differently. So we are going to do some long division today. So we're going to also try to remember these benchmark fractions so we can just use them by memory. Xavier.
The benchmark fractions, why would we use it?
Yeah, because it's not what we would call a common fraction. So when we get to 7, usually what we would do is, we would just round our answer. We'd get a decimal answer and round it. So these are common fractions that come up a lot, and they're easy to work with. So as grown-ups, most grown-ups know these by memory, and it saves us a lot of time. That's why. And it's a good question. It's just not a benchmark fraction or the common fractions, things that are used a lot. So when I look at the next one, let's switch colors here. Okay, so now I'm going to count my jumps. 1, 2, 3, 4,
5, 6, 8.
8, right? So this right here is an 8. Okay, it's a little hard to see. And then 2 8s, which is the same as, well, 2 8s is also the same as a 4th, right? Because it lines up with the 4th. Can you see above?
Yeah.
And then 3 8s. And then 4 8s, which is a half, right? 5 8s. 6 8s. 7 8s. Okay, so we have to figure out those decimals. But what we know from above is that 2 8s is 0.25, right? Now, what's half of 25?
Like 12 and a half.
It's not a whole number, is it? So here's a trick. To figure out the decimal for an 8, this works all the time with decimals. Add 0. What's half of 250?
125.
125. So Amelia, what do you think the decimal is right here for 1/8? $125,000. So it's a 0.125. 125,000. So what was my trick there, Max? What did I do to the 25?
Divided it by 2.
Yeah, and then since it wasn't even, when I divided it by 2, it didn't go in evenly, I put a 0, because putting a 0 at the end of a decimal doesn't change the value. Now, it just makes it easier to divide. So now I can count by 125. I can do 125 thousands. They're all thousands, so I'm not going to say that out loud. 250. So the next one would be add another, what?
125.
Add another 125. So that's 0.375. And I'm going to have to write this way, you guys, to fit it in. 375. Pretty good, huh? So that's 3 8s. And 4 8s, the easiest way to write 4 8s is, or 500 or 0.5, right? I'm going to put 0.500 so I can add another what to get here?
125.
Add another 125, right, which is going to give me
625.
0.625, right? Now I have to add another 125 to get to here.
175.
Right, and we already knew that. Even though I put in the 0, it's just 75 hundredths, and add another 125. 0.875. And then 1. So you're going to memorize these. It's going to happen quicker than you think. You're not going to memorize them with flashcards, but we're going to practice, and you'll be really good at this. Okay? And our next set of matching cards, guess what? Benchmark fraction of decimals. You're going to love it. Okay. So, count the jumps, Chase. Here. 5, right? This one's easier.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So, since there's not a halfway mark here, we're going to just think of $1 again, divided into 5 parts. Or 100 divided into 5. What do you get? Let's have somebody I haven't heard from. Oh, you guys, I didn't get to call them. 20, right? So this decimal would be like 20 cents. So I'm going to put a 20 hundredths here. Do you see that? So 100 divided by 5 is 20, right? Now that 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. So we're just gonna count by 20 cents. So Rachel, what's this decimal right here? 20, what would this be? 40 hundredths, right? What would this be? 60 hundredths, or we could do tenths, right? Because they have zeros. 80 hundredths, or we could think of them as tenths. So, and that's usually what you're gonna do is think of them as tenths. 2 tenths, 4 tenths, 6 tenths, 8 tenths, and a whole. And then Rachel, what are the fractions? 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, right? And the whole, right? And so if I asked you what's the decimal for 3/5, Catherine, what would it be?
The 3/5, it would be 0.6.
Right, for 3/5, the decimal's 0.6 or 6 tenths. Okay? Okay, so Lucy, how many jumps do we have on the next one?
The next one, we have, 10.
Right. So that's the easiest one. Sylvia, what's the first decimal? This is a 10. How do we do that in decimal?
1/10, or 100.
So how do you write it with 1/100th would be 0.01. Is that what you mean? So you mean 1/10? Yeah, like that, 0.1, right? And this would be 2 tenths, 3 tenths, 4 tenths, 5 tenths, 6 tenths, 7 tenths, 8 tenths, 9 tenths, right? That's an easy one. And the decimals, 2 tenths is the same as a fifth, right? So this one is probably the one you learned the easiest in elementary school. And then now we have to get to thirds. Okay, so I'm going to bring in another page here. It's hard, but if you learn these by memory, it's not that hard.
And this is really hard too.
So you can see that there's 3 jumps here, right? Some of you already know the fraction by memory.
But 3 doesn't go into 1.
That's true. 30,
33.3.
that's right. So,
When it doesn't go in.
well, hold on. Hold on. Okay, so watch. Remember, fraction bars mean divide, right? You guys know that? Because we say it almost every day, right? Fraction bars mean divide. So I'm dividing 1 by 3. And you learned in elementary school that when the number outside doesn't go into the number inside, you can put a decimal point 0. And then you learned that you could bring that up and put the decimal there, and you would say, so 3 doesn't go into 1, so we put that 0. Then we put the decimal point, but it does go into 10 3 times. And 3 times 3 is 9, and we subtract and we get a 1. And then you did this again, right?
Yeah.
And then you said 3 goes into 10
3 times.
3 times. And your elementary teacher probably had a lot of fun with this. And
So you put the little squiggly.
and she said again, or he said again, and what happens?
Just keeps going.
You put the bar. So we just say this is 0.3 repeating because we know it never ends, right? Raise your hand if you remember that in elementary school. Okay? So
My dad.
if you don't believe me, not that the calculator is smarter than we are, but sometimes this is a good time to bring the calculator out to see if anything I'm saying makes sense. Like, is 1/8 really 0.125? Fraction bars mean what? Divide. So I would have to do 1 divided by 8. Right? So if you want to test yourself on this, have your parents put a calculator in the car. You could test yourself on benchmark fractions. Like you could say, I'm going to do 3/8, and then say what you think it is and test yourself. That'd be a really good skill just to have a little calculator in the car because you go to all the different things you go to, right? But the other thing is, what about 1/3?
It doesn't show the infinite sign.
It doesn't, because it's not as smart as you. Only you know infinity, calculators don't.
You just,
Noah.
so, I was just noticing, so, in percent, when, so let's just say, it could be 1/8.
That's right.
Percent, it would be 12.
Yeah, that comes next. Did you guys hear what he said? 1 out of 8 is 12.5%. The percent. Yeah, but we're sticking with decimals right now. But you're correct. Percents are related. Let me ask you this: what do you think 2/3 is? If 1/3, 3. Right. Okay, so over. Well, that's because the calculator is not very smart, right? And the calculator doesn't know what to do at the end. And he's like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. Round up. But really, what's going on is it goes on forever, but calculators don't understand forever. Only humans understand forever. So it rounds at the end. So it means you're smarter than the calculator. Don't ever forget that. So this is 0.3 repeating, and this is 0.6 repeating. And we're not going to do the next one right now, okay? The 6th we're going to do later, just for, well, should we do it?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, why not?
It's close, right, because you guys,
So we can do like 60 billion times
so 1/6,
billion.
fraction bars mean what?
Divide.
Divide, so it's 1 divided by 6. Well, 6 doesn't go into 1, so we're going to try 6 into 10. How many times? 1. Subtract, and what do I get? Bring down the 0. What happens next? 6, right? Subtract, bring down the 0.
Infinity 6 and it's
Right.
16.6.
Only what's repeating?
6.
Only the 6 is repeating.
So you only put a bar over the 4.
Yes, good job. You only put a bar over the 6. So this is
That's a good one.
0.16 repeating. I am. So down here, this is a 6, and this is 0.16 repeating. And for right now, well, the 1/3 we know, right? 2/6 is the same as 1/3, so that's 0.3 repeating. And 3/6 is the same as what? So that's 0.5. And 4/6 is the same as what? 0.6. It's the same as 2/3, right? 5/6. We got to do a little work, right? And we're gonna jump. We're gonna 4/6. Remember that these are the same, right? 2/3 and a half. These are the same. So, and these are the same. So when they're the same, we're going to use the simplified ones. You know what I'm saying? And then just to keep things a little quick today. Yeah, who has 5/6? Who thinks? What do you think, Mia?
Maybe 0.7.
What do you think, Noah? What do you think, Alicia?
0.8.
Dylan?
9.
0.9. None of you guys are very far away.
What's a pattern?
Close. 0.833. The reason, well, we would have to do this long division again.
So you have to write 83 because it's something.
Only the 3's repeating. So we're going to use the calculator for that one. 0.8 with the 3, and that's 5/6. So that's Now, here's the thing. This is how you're going to use this to keep things simple in your life. Watch. There's a reason I did this. Okay, these you might want to put in your comp book. I'll pause and you can get your comp book out. Okay, so this is how we use the work. The work was big, but the homework's short. Because I'm going to do, even I could do this in my head. How many times does 4 go into 19 evenly?
4.
4, right? So, and the remainder's 3, right?
Yeah.
So we know 4 3/4 is the same as 4. And then you just come over here, 0.75. And that's your answer. That's how you're going to do your homework.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, you probably did repeated subtraction. Well, we can talk later.
Yeah, that's what gave away and left over.
Well, maybe we'll have to talk individually. So think of this one, you guys. 5 goes into 220. How many times does 5 go into 22? Xavier. 4, right? So that's 20. And when I subtract, I get a 2, and I bring down the 4. How many times does 5 go into 24? 4, right? And now I subtract, and I get a 4. So it's 4/5, right?
Wouldn't it also be 44.88?
Right, so that's what you want to do tonight. Your final answer is 44.8. Because we know 4/5, if we look over here, 4/5 is 0.8. Sylvia.
What about a 0 behind the 8? Would that be kind of wrong?
Nope. Yes. Okay, like number 4, right? If we looked at number 4, let me just make some space here. 3 goes into 12 4 times, right? So when you subtract, you just bring down the 7. 3 goes into 7 2 times. You subtract and you get a 1, so it's 42 1/3. So the decimal answer, right, because 1/3 is down here, right? So it's just 43.3 repeating. 42. Oh, darn it. 42, that's what I said. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you.
And there's a half.
42. Oh my gosh. I'm messing up. Being careless.
We need to get to passing period.
That's good. That's
Still
good.
recording?
I am. It's good to record mistakes, right? Teachers make mistakes. All right. So look at your worksheet.
Is that a 1
Yeah. Look at the back.
What about 7 and 8?
So
7 and 8. Oh, wow, that's easy.
you see, time, real quick. It's on the back side of the yellow. Just a second. Hold on. I'll get there. But do you see how I started this for you?
Yeah.
So right here, the answer is going to be 24.2.
24.22.
That's how your work is. Okay. What's the thing about 7 and 8 that I did?
They don't have a,
Oh, it got cut off, but you can do it.
I don't know.
Do it yourself then. Give the decimal answer.
Oh, do we have to like write out the coefficient? Just like write
Get the decimal answer. So that, all right. I'm going to record that. I know it's a long one, but if you get stuck, you can just fast forward. Mia.
So for number 7 and 8, we just write the